Before we dive into this latest sci-fi epic, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
In the uncharted reaches beyond the Orion Spur, there existed a planet swathed in legends and shadowed mysteries, a world known as Kilari Prime. Its magnificent violet skies, crimson horizons, and the deep, resonant echoes of ancient lore had long captured the imaginations of explorers and conquerors alike. Long before the modern era of technological marvels, Kilari Prime's inhabitants, the Kilari, forged alliances and rivalries that would echo through the annals of galactic history. For centuries, the Kilari Confederacy maintained a delicate balance between tradition and innovation, clinging to ancient honor while embracing futuristic technology. But all of that was about to change. An impending crisis stirred from the farthest corners of the cosmos, threatening not only Kilari Prime but also the intricate tapestry of interstellar politics that had defined the galaxy for millennia. Commander Sal Vex stood upon the bridge of the Kilari flagship Aeon's Vigil, his gaze fixed on the shimmering void beyond the panoramic viewport. The ship's console pulsed with urgent messages and turbulent sensor readings, and the normally composed officer now carried the weight of a crisis that threatened everything he held dear. "Report, Lieutenant," Vex's gravelly voice resonated with authority and an undercurrent of distress. Around him, crew members worked with steely determination, their coordinated efforts a testament to the discipline that had come to define Kilari military tradition. Lieutenant Meris, her eyes reflecting the kaleidoscopic hues of distant star fields, replied, "Commander, sensor arrays indicate an approaching formation. It's unlike any enemy fleet we've encountered. The signature belongs to the Vorax Collective." Her words sent a ripple of apprehension through the room. The Vorax Collective, the relentless, expansionist armada, had long been the scourge of unprepared worlds. With their vast numbers and overwhelming firepower, they were the harbingers of annihilation. Even the formidable Kilari defenses, honed over generations, now trembled in the face of this seemingly insurmountable threat. Commander Vex clenched his fists. "Prepare for battle stations," he ordered, his voice echoing throughout the command deck. Yet, beneath his stern exterior lay a deep-seated regret, a dawning realization that the mighty defenses they'd long relied on were crumbling. Allies who once pledged support had either abandoned the cause or bowed to pressures from a treacherous Galactic Council. For Vex and his beleaguered fleet, hope was a thread nearly broken. But as darkness gathered on the horizon of Kilari Prime, the embers of a long-forgotten alliance began to glow once more. Long before the current crisis, legends had been told of a time when humanity, then a fledgling civilization, received the benevolent aid of the Kilari. In the days of the Terran Plague, as humanity's cities fell silent and hope flickered on the edge of oblivion, a small contingent of Kilari emissaries had ventured forth from Kilari Prime, bearing remedies and solace. This historic intervention, though shrouded by the mists of time, left an indelible mark on the human spirit. Sal Vex, with a mind as sharp as his tactical prowess, recalled those ancient days with bittersweet clarity. The bond between Kilari and humans had once been forged in blood and benevolence, a covenant based on mutual respect and shared sacrifice. And now, even as the Vorax Collective advanced and allies vanished, Vex clung to that fragile memory. In one desperate moment, he would reach out across the vast expanse of space to awaken that alliance anew. Late into the night of the ship's dimmed corridors, Vex pored over archival data stored on encrypted holo archives. He read of humanity's rise from near extinction, of their unyielding resilience, and of the secret technological breakthroughs that had catapulted them from isolation to interstellar prominence. Among these breakthroughs was a set of experimental technologies, strange devices that bent the fabric of space, creating temporary rifts in the known cosmos. Could it be? Vex murmured to himself. After all these years? The possibility stirred something deep within him, a hope that perhaps, somewhere, humanity had been preparing for a moment such as this. As the sensors confirmed the encroaching Vorax armada, Commander Vex made a decision that would alter the course of history. With trembling resolve, he dictated a message that carried the weight of an entire civilization's future. To any vessel bearing the flag of Earth, this is Commander Sal Vex of the Kilari Confederacy. Our home, Kilari Prime, stands on the brink of destruction. We invoke the ancient pact between our peoples. Let not the bonds of history be forgotten. We implore you to come swiftly, our survival depends upon it. The message, encoded with layers of subtext and secure frequencies, was transmitted across every known channel. The hope was that somewhere, perhaps hidden in the recesses of Earth's advanced fleet, the human commanders might recall their storied past and answer the desperate call for help. In the midst of the chaos, uncertainty reigned. Doubt swirled among the senior officers. Was the human alliance truly a relic of bygone days, or did Earth's isolation in recent decades render such bonds nothing more than nostalgic folklore? Yet, for Vex, the risk was worth taking. Even a small contingent of human intervention, armed with technologies beyond anything the Vorax Collective could muster, might just tip the scales in Kilari's favor. From Kilari Prime, in a sector of space marked by erratic gravitational distortions and transient cosmic anomalies, a furtive ripple in the fabric of reality began to manifest. At the heart of this anomaly, deep within an interdimensional fissure, Captain Alina Ray paced the command deck of the human flagship Aegis Horizon. Captain Ray was renowned across Earth's interstellar fleet for her tactical acumen and her ability to remain cool under even the most harrowing pressures. The sensor suite before her flickered with irregular but unmistakable signals, a cosmic rift opening unexpectedly in the space-time continuum. Her first instinct was a calculation: what could be causing these fluctuations? Her chief science officer, Dr. Amon Reyes, leaned over a holographic display, his face lit by pulsating data streams. "Captain, these readings suggest an anomalous tear between dimensions. It's as if some force is manipulating the very fabric of space." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. But there was something more, a faint, encoded transmission riding on the chaotic waves of the rift. Captain Ray's eyes narrowed as she isolated the signal. With a practiced hand, she enhanced the broadcast, and soon the words of Commander Vex emerged, interwoven with static and celestial reverberations. "There's a bond from our past, a plea for help, from Kilari Prime." She intoned softly, the memory of humanity's troubled history mingling with hope and trepidation. The historical alliance, a faraway echo of compassion in humanity's early days, had not been forgotten. The data indicated that an old promise, forged amid the ashes of the Terran plague, was being rekindled. Ray swiftly convened her senior officers in the war room. "We stand at a crossroads," she declared, her voice firm and resolute. "If the Kilari recall their promise to us, if our ancestors truly saved them in their hour of need, then our intervention might change the course of an entire galaxy. We'll make for Kilari Prime and see what we can do, prepare for the unknown." In that moment, the latent power of human ingenuity, honed over generations of seclusion and struggle, surged forth. The fleet, long idle in Earth's remoter sectors, was awakened by the call of duty and the stirring of ancient loyalties. Advanced technologies and experimental defenses, once shrouded in secrecy, were brought to bear as the human armada prepared to navigate the newly formed rift and plunge into the heart of a galactic conflict. Aegis Horizon, every crew member was hyper-aware of the risks. The rift was unpredictable, a chaotic confluence of spatial distortions that could as easily lead to oblivion as to salvation. Captain Alina Ray's command was resolute as the flagship initiated its experimental drive system. In a brilliant cascade of luminous colors, the vessel was torn from the familiar fabric of space and thrust into a realm where conventional physics held little sway. The stars beyond the viewports blurred into streaks of chromatic brilliance, and the humming of the engines took on an almost musical quality, resonating with the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. "It's like traveling through the soul of the universe," whispered Dr. Reyes, who could not contain his awe even in the midst of tactical analysis. His voice, full of wonder, provided a brief respite from the tension that gripped every officer on board. Yet, even amid the spectacle, there was an undercurrent of urgency. "Approach vector stabilized," reported the navigation officer. "Estimated time to exit the rift, 3 minutes." For those 3 minutes, time itself appeared both to slow and to surge forward, each heartbeat accompanied by the pulse of cosmic energy. Captain Ray maintained a steady hand on the helm, guided by years of training and a deep intuition for the patterns of the universe. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the turbulence eased. The rift opened like a gateway, and the human fleet emerged in the uncharted territory near Kilari Prime. The star system before them was both breathtaking and ominous, swirling nebulae draped around a battered, yet defiant, planet whose surface bore scars of fire and conflict. Back on Kilari Prime, Commander Sal Vex was busy orchestrating a desperate defense. The Vorax Collective's vessels, monstrous in design and numbers, began to darken the skies like vultures circling a dying savanna. The once proud defenses of the Kilari, despite their valiant efforts, faltered under the relentless barrage of enemy fire. Everywhere, alarm klaxons rang and emergency protocols lit up with frantic red warnings. In the command center of Eon's vigil, Vex's eyes were fixed on the screens displaying the onslaught. He knew that each passing moment meant further erosion of his people's hopes, and the possibility that this ancient enemy might finally eradicate the Confederacy entirely. Engage countermeasures! Vex roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. Yet, as energy shields sparked under direct hits, and the hull creaked with the violence of repeated strikes, it was clear that reinforcements were desperately needed. It was then that a sudden change rippled across the battlefield. The deep silence of space was split by the unmistakable hum of engines far more advanced than those the Vorax employed. The human fleet, led by the Legis Horizon, had arrived. In a sweeping display of technological superiority, human ships darted into the fray with dazzling agility. Bolstered by next-generation reflective armor and weapon systems powered by quantum energy converters, the human vessels created a bulwark between the advancing Vorax and the vulnerable Kilari positions. Captain Alina Ray, standing firmly on the bridge of her flagship, coordinated the formation with remarkable precision. Maintain formation, protect the capital ship. Divert power to the forward shields and open fire on the enemy's weak points. Let them taste the might of our technology. The fleet's synchronized counterattacks were nothing short of breathtaking. Laser arrays danced across the darkness, and rapid-fire missile salvos tore through enemy ranks with surgical exactitude. Even as the Kilari forces regrouped and pushed back against the encroaching Vorax, the tide of battle began to shift. At that pivotal moment, two vastly different worlds, once separated by centuries of detachment, stood united in defiance of a common foe. The legacy of ancient promises, once relegated to myth and memory, was being reborn in the heat of interstellar combat. In the aftermath of the human fleet's dramatic entrance, the battle over Kilari Prime surged into a new phase of ferocity. Commander Sal Vex, his eyes still blazing with the determination born of desperation, marshaled every remaining asset of the Kilari defenses. Even as his communications console flashed desperate pleas and alarms, there was a newfound energy pulsing through the command deck. The arrival of human allies had not only bolstered their forces but rekindled a forgotten hope that united two very different peoples. The Vorax Collective, reeling from the unexpected precision of human tactics, sought to adapt rapidly. Their hulking warships twisted and reformed their formations, recalibrating targeting systems in an attempt to neutralize the human technological onslaught. Yet, every maneuver they executed was met with a counter by the nimble Legis Horizon and its fleet. The nightmarish silhouettes of enemy ships flared against the deep void of space, and every brilliant burst of laser and missile added to the tapestry of chaos swirling above Kilari Prime. On the bridge of the Legis Horizon, Captain Alina Ray kept her gaze fixed on the unfolding battle, her mind racing as she coordinated complex tactical instructions to both her crew and Kilari counterparts. All wings, converge on Sector Delta, that is where our intelligence indicates the Vorax flagship is maneuvering, she ordered in a voice that carried both confidence and empathy. For Captain Ray, this engagement was more than a military operation, it was a duty to honor an ancient pact and to restore hope among countless victims of Council manipulation. Meanwhile, Commander Vex console blinked with incoming distress transmissions from outlying colonies and military outposts on Kilari Prime. The data painted a grim picture. Entire cities were under siege, their citizens caught in the crossfire of a war they never sought. With one hand still gripping the cold metal of his command chair, Vex sent orders to redirect fighters and energy reserves toward protecting evacuation routes for civilians. In a flurry of activity, Kilari pilots doggedly soared through the vapor trails left by the human vessels, their craft weaving intricate patterns to intercept enemy fire. It was a ballet of determination and courage in which both Kilari and human forces moved as if one, a unity born of desperation, pride, and the cherished memory of alliances past. On the ground of Kilari Prime, a world whose every hill and valley now bore the scars of war, the conflict raged on simultaneously as explosions rocked the ancient city centers. In one such devastated district, Commander Vex oversaw the evacuation of civilians through hastily constructed safe corridors illuminated by searchlights and holographic guides. He paused for a moment amidst the organized chaos, his heart heavy at the sight of families clutching remnants of a once glorious heritage. It was during these hours of visceral struggle that a quiet dialogue unfolded between Vex and Lieutenant Meris. "Commander," she said softly as she monitored the shifting enemy formations, "our sensors have picked up anomalies within the enemy ranks, a pattern that seems too deliberate. I believe the Vorax are being manipulated from behind the lines." Vex expression GI. Across the battlefield, the human fleet was also facing revelations of treachery. Captain Ray, in her private quarters later that night, reviewed encrypted data captured from an intercepted communication. The transmission, heavily encoded and fragmented, spoke of directives issued by High Council members, a dark script that implicated the governing body of the galaxy in staging the conflict. "They've been using the Vorax as pawns all along," Ray realized aloud, her voice a blend of disbelief and righteous indignation. "This changes everything." Both commanders, united by the common cause of unmasking the Council's deception, began to orchestrate secretive communications between their forces. Vex authorized discreet channels to share intelligence with Captain Ray, while she dispatched a contingent of her most trusted advisors into orbit to assist with real-time counterintelligence. With each new piece of information, the picture became clearer. The struggle for Kilari Prime was part of a broader, insidious plan to reshape the power dynamics of the galaxy in favor of a few ruthless elites. Over the course of the ensuing hours, the skies above Kilari Prime became a canvas painted in swirls of light and shadow. Massive energy shields, erected both by human technology and reinforced Kilari constructs, glimmered in defiance of the barrage from Vorax warships. At the heart of the maelstrom, the flagship Kion's Vigil floated like a beacon amid the smoke and debris, a symbol of steadfast determination in the face of inevitable collapse. As the twin forces continued their clash, pockets of intense combat erupted in regions where civilians were trapped. In one ruined sector, Kilari militia units and human marines banded together to form rescue teams, braving the chaos to clear debris and guide frightened families to safety. In the midst of this, a young Kilari woman named Isha, whose eyes shone with the fierce spirit of resistance, found herself leading a group through a crumbling alleyway. For Isha, every step was a testament to the enduring will to survive, and every life saved rekindled the long-dormant alliance with the humans who had once saved her kin during the plague. Back aboard the Legis Horizon, Captain Ray second-in-command, Commander Idris Bodan, carefully reviewed tactical updates relayed by Vex forces. "There's a link between this assault and past Council maneuvers," he explained. "The Vorax are not only acting under their own volition, they're following a script written by those who wish to see the Confederacy's downfall. We must hit them where it hurts, their command structure." Ray nodded, already plotting a daring plan for a surgical strike that could turn the tide in this cosmic standoff. Amid intense debate in the war room, a brilliant yet unconventional tactical plan took shape. Dr. Amon Reyes, still marveling at the cosmic distortions of the rift, proposed an experimental maneuver harnessing humanity's latest breakthrough in quantum energy manipulation. "If we can recalibrate our quantum converters to create a localized energy surge, we might be able to disrupt the Vorax command network temporarily," he explained, fingers dancing over the holo interface as he laid out complex schematics for a quantum salvo. Captain Ray listened intently. A localized blackout in their neural grids could disable several major formations, she mused. "But we must time it perfectly. Salvo launchers must be aligned with both Kilari fleet positions and our own advanced vessel capabilities." The room buzzed with excitement and dread in equal measure. It was a high-risk plan, one that could either disable the Vorax long enough for a decisive counterattack or inadvertently leave both fleets exposed. Commander Idris Bodan leaned forward, calculating the odds. Our simulations suggest a success probability of nearly 60%, he said. This is our moment. Our ancestors fought for freedom in the darkest hours, and we owe them our best shot. With renewed resolve, Captain Ray gave the order, deploy the quantum salvo. Let history mark this night as the turning point. On the bridge, the countdown began. Energy fields shimmered as the recalibrated converters pulsed at intervals that defied conventional physics. In an almost silent collaboration with Kilari command centers, the salvo was executed. Across the battlefield, a wave of incandescent energy swept outward, distorting enemy sensors and scrambling command networks. For a fleeting moment, precisely 60 seconds, the Vorax Collective centralized coordination went dark. In that 60-second window, chaos reigned on the enemy lines. Without coherent instructions, Vorax warships began to collide and falter in their assault. Kilari and human forces, now brimming with renewed vigor, exploited the gap. Commander Vex directed his fighter squadrons to target the vulnerable flanks of Vorax formations, while Captain Ray's vessels pounced with precision strikes, each blast a declaration of defiance against oppression. The atmosphere over Kilari Prime became electric with hope. Amid the surging tide, reports of liberated installations and reclaimed territories began to arrive in rapid succession. In one sector, human marines and Kilari ground forces stormed a communications hub, and with it, uncovered critical data implicating high-ranking council officials in the Vorax manipulations. The evidence was irrefutable. The Galactic Council had not only instigated the conflict but had deliberately destabilized the region to secure their control over critical resources and strategic territories. Word of the revelation spread like wildfire. "This is it," Lieutenant Meris announced over the encrypted network back to Commander Vex. "We have proof of the Council's deceit. Their authority has been undermined not by our defeat, but by their own treachery." The message reverberated through both fleets, rekindling the fighting spirit and transforming a desperate struggle into a righteous crusade. High above the planet, amidst the ruins of shattered Vorax flagship modules, Captain Ray and Commander Bodan met in a quiet corner of the bridge. "Our intervention must be more than a rescue mission," Ray declared, her eyes burning with determination. "We need to ensure that the Council's lies and their crimes are exposed to every star system in the galaxy. This war isn't just about Kilari Prime, it's about reclaiming our collective destiny." Bodan nodded. "Then our next step must be swift. We need to coordinate with both the liberated Kilari units and the independent factions within the Council who opposed these dictatorial moves. It's time for alliances to transform into a network of truth and resistance." Even as the cosmic tides turned in favor of the alliance, a darker undercurrent continued to pulse through the void. In a hidden conference room orbiting a forgotten moon far from Kilari Prime, emissaries of the Galactic Council gathered behind impenetrable security measures. Their voices were low and measured, speaking of contingency plans and backup strategies to regain control. One council member, known only as Minister Callies, addressed the assembly, his tone cold and impersonal. "The quantum salvo has undermined our hold on the Vorax forces, and the Kilari are proving far more resourceful than anticipated. Our immediate objective must be to reclaim our narrative. Operation Nebula Eclipse will commence at dawn to isolate the affected sectors and retake command over the communications channels." Even as Minister Callies spoke, his words were laced with an ominous assurance. The Council had long viewed individual species as subservient pawns, and losing control of one battle did not mean the end of their designs. Their next move, a surprise offensive backed by dormant fleets and clandestine technologies, was aimed at shattering the fragile coalition between the Kilari and the humans. Back on Kilari Prime, rumors of the Council's countermeasures fueled the urgency of the United Forces plans. Commander Vex called for a high-level briefing with his Kilari advisors, human liaison officers, and key representatives of the newly emboldened resistance cells. In a makeshift war room carved from the remnants of a once-ornate meeting hall, the assembled leaders huddled around glowing tables that displayed the latest tactical overlays and intelligence data. Vex's voice was resolute as he addressed the gathered allies. The Council's treachery has not yet ended. As we celebrate our victory today, we must also prepare for the inevitable backlash. The fate of not just Kilari Prime, but of every sentient race wronged by their deceit, depends on our unity and resolve. We must push forward to liberate every colony, every star system, and expose the Council for what it truly is. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, echoing the determination in every heart present. Plans were laid out for a coordinated offensive to secure key communication hubs, neutralize lingering Vorax enclaves, and prepare diplomatic channels to rally further support from independent sectors across the galaxy. As dawn approached over the war-torn horizon of Kilari Prime, the combined forces of Kilari warriors and human strategists mobilized for their next series of strikes. In a demonstration of both solidarity and the marriage of divergent technologies, human vessels and Kilari craft began to integrate their battle protocols. The fusion of cutting-edge human advancements with the resilient, time-honed strategies of the Kilari created something new, a hybrid force that was agile, resourceful, and determined. On board the Leon's Vigil, Commander Vex prepared to lead a contingent on a critical mission to infiltrate a Vorax command relay located in the rugged highlands of Kilari Prime. The relay was the nerve center of the enemy's operations in the region, and its capture would cripple the Vorax's ability to coordinate further assaults. Accompanied by an elite team of Kilari commandos and a pair of human reconnaissance drones, Vex embarked on a daring journey into enemy territory. The journey was fraught with peril. The landscape itself, scarred by the conflict, was a labyrinth of twisted metal, ruined sanctuaries, and pockets of lingering energy discharges from the earlier quantum salvo. Every step was shadowed by the potential of enemy patrols and the ever-present specter of betrayal. Yet, the small team pushed on, driven by the belief that in reclaiming this command relay, they could turn the tide of the impending Council counteroffensive. Meanwhile, in orbit above the planet, Captain Ray convened with her tactical team on the Legis horizon. The conversations were terse and laced with urgency. "We've identified several key objectives that need to be secured before the Council's backup fleets arrive," Ray briefed her team. "Our mandate is clear: we must extend the liberation beyond Kilari Prime and ensure that every signal, every piece of data showing the Council's complicity, is transmitted across the galaxy." The plan would see human vessels deploying rapid response fighter detachments and using their advanced sensors to locate hidden Council assets. One such asset was a covert communications relay stationed within a stealth field near the contested border of a neutral system, a relay believed to be the fulcrum of the Council's widespread surveillance network. Disrupting that system would not only amplify the Resistance's message but also free countless oppressed colonies from the suffocating grip of government oversight. As preparations for these coordinated strikes were set in motion, a sense of collective destiny permeated the ranks. Every soldier, pilot, and officer, human and Kilari alike, felt the weight of history and the promise of a new era. The battlefield was transforming from a site of despair to the crucible where a future defined by mutual cooperation and self-determination would be forged. The infiltration mission led by Commander Vex was both tactical and symbolic. As Vex and his team stealthily navigated the treacherous highlands, each step was a measured defiance against the oppression that had long burdened their people. The ragged edges of mountains, illuminated by the pale light of a broken dawn, bore witness to centuries of resilience and sacrifice. In whispered tones, Vex reminded his team, "We are not merely reclaiming a command relay, we are reclaiming our right to determine our own destiny. Every stone we pass, every ruin we navigate, is a testament to our history and a beacon for the future." Inside a fortified bunker near the relay, the team encountered unexpected resistance. A squadron of Vorax guards, alerted by subtle disturbances in the electromagnetic field, converged on the intruders. The ensuing skirmish was swift and brutal. Vex's strategic brilliance was evident as he directed his team to spread out, using the fragmented terrain for cover while isolating enemy units. Laser fire and kinetic blasts lit up the grim caverns, and in a display of synchronized combat, the Allied forces overcame the Vorax contingent with calculated precision. The struggle was not without cost. In the ensuing firefight, one of Vex's trusted lieutenants, Commander Ray, was critically injured. With urgency and compassion, Vex secured Ray and whispered reassurances as his fellow soldiers held off further enemy advances. Today, we fight not only for survival, but for the memory of every sacrifice that brought us this far, Vex vowed, the words heavy with both sorrow and unyielding resolve. Meanwhile, back on the Legis horizon, Captain Ray's team accomplished their objective on the neutral border. In a daring strike executed under the cover of a cosmic anomaly, human fighters disrupted the covert communications relay. In a cascade of cascading data streams and intermittent transmissions, the truth about the Galactic Council's deception was transmitted across interstellar channels. Reports poured in from allied colonies, confirming that the Council's manipulation extended far beyond Kilari Prime. This was the spark that would ignite a galaxy-wide uprising. With the command relay secured and the communications disruption complete, the combined forces felt a surge of empowerment as they witnessed the ripples of truth reaching every corner of the star systems. The revelation of the Galactic Council's treachery resonated deeply, galvanizing dissent among species long subjugated by opaque governance and systemic control. In a hastily organized assembly broadcast across allied networks, the freed representatives of besieged colonies, resistance leaders, and enlightened officials rallied to call for a full-scale reformation of galactic governance. Commander Vex, his voice resonant and impassioned, addressed the united assembly. Today, we cast off the yoke of manipulation. The Galactic Council may have shrouded our futures in lies, but the truth is our weapon. We stand on the precipice of change. Let us forge a new order, one that respects the dignity of every starfaring soul. Captain Ray echoed those sentiments in an interstellar broadcast that spread like wildfire. Humanity's isolation has given us strength and resilience. We have reached out across the cosmos to answer a call of duty and compassion, and together, we have become a force for liberation and justice. Our alliance is not born of desperation, but of a shared dream of a future where every species rises as equals. As the Allied forces prepared for the Council's counteroffensive, an air of cautious celebration intermingled with the determination to persevere. Cadets and veterans alike worked side by side, blending technology and tactics from both cultures, knowing that the coming days would decide not only the fate of Kilari Prime but the future of interstellar diplomacy. At the break of a new starlit day, far above the embattled territories, the Galactic Council enacted its contingency plans. In a dramatic display of power, Minister Callas's fleet, hidden for months in stasis within a cloaked division of battle cruisers, erupted from hyperspace. Their arrival was accompanied by a barrage of precision strikes aimed at key communication and coordination centers across the liberated sectors. The sudden emergence of the Council's backup forces sent shockwaves through the Allied formations. Captain Ray, sensing the magnitude of this new threat, immediately ordered her fleet to adopt a defensive perimeter around Kilari Prime. All ships, prepare for a full-spectrum defense, she commanded, her voice cutting through the rising din of alarms and coordinated chatter. The human vessels, already battle-hardened by recent engagements, squared off against the Council's reinforcements with a steely resolve born of hard-won victory and unyielding justice. On the ground, Commander Vex received grim reports from multiple fronts. "We're witnessing a systematic assault on every major node of our network," he said into the comlink. "The Council is attempting to slice through our lines of communication and sever our command structure. We need to hold every position, no matter the cost." The ensuing hours were a tempest of conflict. Kilari and human forces fought side by side, their combined tactics evolving in real time to counter the superior firepower and coordination of the Council's strike teams. Despite being outnumbered in some sectors, the ingenuity and resolve of the Allied forces enabled them to establish temporary strongholds in multiple regions. In one particularly critical moment, as a Vorax warship, now under Council command, loomed ominously close to a vital transport corridor, Lieutenant Meris and her wing of fighter pilots executed a daring ambush. They launched an array of micro-drones equipped with reflective armor and quantum disruptors. With precision honed by desperation and mutual trust, the drones zeroed in on enemy sensors, blinding the Vorax craft and allowing Allied fighters to plunge in with precision strikes that left nothing but smoldering wreckage in their wake. As the tide of battle shifted once again with the Council's renewed aggression, the Alliance began to tap into a hidden strength, the shared cultural heritage and resilience that had grown between the Kilari and the humans over centuries of isolation and struggle. In the midst of cosmic warfare, moments of quiet humanity emerged, stories of loss, hope, and rebirth that transcended species boundaries. On a temporarily secured plateau overlooking one of the battle-scarred cities, Commander Vex took a moment to visit a memorial constructed in honor of those who had fallen defending Kilari Prime. Touched by the names etched into ancient stone and the flickering images preserved by human holographic archivists, Vex reflected on the sacrifices of previous generations and the promise of a future in which truth and justice would triumph over deception. "It is here," he murmured to. Elsewhere, aboard the Legis Horizon, Captain Ray reviewed messages from resistance cells across the galaxy. The broadcasts were filled with accounts of communities rising in defiance of tyranny, of refugees transforming into soldiers of liberation, and of an interstellar network of hope being knit together thread by thread. With each message, Ray felt the weight of history and the stirring call to action, that every sacrifice now was laying the foundation for a galaxy reborn. The crisis had evolved into an epic struggle not only for survival, but for identity, a battle to redefine the very concepts of power and governance among the stars. In the ensuing hours, Allied strategists devised plans for a final, decisive push to disable the Council's central command hubs. It was a risky maneuver, one that required perfect synchronization between forces spread across light years, and the unwavering faith of those who had come to believe that freedom was worth any sacrifice. In a pivotal juncture of the conflict, as the Council's reinforcements continued to pour into the fray, human and Kilari commanders convened via secure holographic link in a situation room aboard a repurposed transport vessel. Captain Ray, Commander Vex, Commander Bodan, and key leaders from both sides gathered around a sprawling three-dimensional map of the contested sectors. "Our objective," Vex declared, "is to disable the Council's primary command nexus. Once that center falls, the enemy's cohesion will crumble, and our allies across the galaxy will have the opportunity to rise up fully against the old order." Ray added, "We have located the nexus at the heart of the nebular expanse, a region of volatile energy and treacherous spatial anomalies. It's risky, but if we can breach its defenses and seize control, we'll have the evidence and the leverage needed to force the Council's hand." The plan that emerged was audacious, a coordinated assault involving human stealth corvettes, Kilari commandos, and drone swarms specifically modified to exploit the nebula's chaotic energies. In a synchronized dance of light and shadow, these forces would converge on the Nexus during the narrow window when the Council's backup systems would be most vulnerable. Every second of their operation needed to be timed to perfection, failure was not an option. As preparations reached feverish intensity, the Allied forces initiated their final push. The corridors of the Legis Horizon hummed with the nervous energy of crews performing final checks, while Kilari vessels, their surfaces adorned with markings of unity and resistance, moved silently into formation. The convergence of two worlds, each hardened by their own struggles yet inspired by a shared vision, had created an armada unlike any the galaxy had seen before, a beacon of hope in the darkness of oppressive tyranny. The assault on the command nexus was launched at a moment that felt destined by fate. Human stealth corvettes, shrouded by the nebula's swirling mists, pierced through the ethereal clouds. At the same time, Kilari commandos, their weapons charged with both ancient energy and modern firepower, fastened themselves to the hulls of enemy satellites guarding the nexus. Overhead, Captain Ray's flagship and its escort engaged Council forces in a chaotic dance of evasive maneuvers and counterattacks, buying precious seconds for the ground assault to unfold. Within the undulating tapestry of colored gases and electromagnetic distortions, the infiltrating teams advanced with deliberate precision. Every moment was a battle against both time and the hostile environment, a test of resolve that pushed them to the limit. In one compartment, Lieutenant Meris led a group of specialized drones through a narrow passage carved by nature and battle scars alike. The drone sensors, attuned to the subtleties of quantum interference, navigated the cosmic turbulence with a grace that belied the lethality of their mission. Inside the Nexus facility, a sprawling structure partially integrated with the natural rock formations of the nebular expanse, the Allied forces encountered formidable defenses, automated turrets, energy barriers, and squads of elite Vorax operatives loyal to the Council's cause. An intense firefight erupted in the claustrophobic corridors, the sound of combat muffled by the ambient hum of the nebula outside. Explosions illuminated ancient carvings on the facility's walls, revealing symbols of a bygone era when the Kilari had once flourished without interference. For a moment, the two sides paused in the face of history, a solemn reminder of what was at stake. Commander Vex, at the forefront, led his team through the chaos. His every command carried the weight of destiny, and his determination lit a fire in those around him. Push forward. For Kilari Prime. For every soul yearning for freedom, he shouted as he orchestrated the breach of a massive energy barrier concealing the Nexus core. The battle crescendoed as Allied forces gradually overran the Nexus defenses. In a final, climactic push, Kilari commandos breached the central control chamber. With moments to spare before Council reinforcements could re-establish control, Vex and his elite unit secured the main console and interfaced with its network. The moment of triumph was palpable. This was not just a tactical victory, but a symbolic one. The Council's hub of manipulation was now in enemy hands. In the ensuing moments, as Allied technicians and hackers rapidly downloaded critical data and broadcast live testimonies from the control room, the truth of the Council's treachery exploded across every frequency in the known galaxy. Images and messages of unyielding oppression, meticulously concealed evidence of conspiracies, and first-hand accounts of the Council's crimes flashed across screens in every liberated colony. The shockwaves were immediate and profound. Captain Ray, addressing the gathered forces over the communication network, spoke with an uncharacteristic passion that resonated across cosmic distances. Today we have taken a stand, not just for Kilari Prime, not just for the oppressed, but for the very soul of our galaxy. Let every star, every planet, every being know that tyranny can be unseated by the united strength of truth and justice. This is our era of liberation. Even as Council forces scrambled to mount a counter-response, the tide of public sentiment began to shift irreversibly in favor of the Alliance. In distant sectors, peaceful protests erupted. In long-forgotten colonies, insurgent groups rallied under the banner of the New Order. The revelation shamed the Council and exposed the deep-rooted corruption that had fed on the vulnerabilities of isolated, oppressed peoples. For Commander Vex and Captain Ray, the battle had evolved into something transcendent, a transformation that blended the legacy of suffering with a bright promise for tomorrow. Their voices, once solitary echoes in the void, were now part of a grand chorus that heralded the birth of a truly just galactic governance, a system built on accountability, inclusivity, and the shared aspirations of countless souls. The corridors of the commandeered Nexus facility still hummed with residual energy, its walls etched with symbols of ancient Kilari lore. In a makeshift operation centered deep within the structure, Commander Sal Vex and his select team pored over the stolen Council files. The data revealed more than just the mechanics of manipulation, it unearthed the hidden history of the Galactic Council's rise to power and the insidious methods used to divide and subjugate the various star systems. It was here, in the dim glow of holographic displays and amid fragments of intercepted Council communications, that an extraordinary revelation came to light. The Council had, for generations, not only manipulated external threats like the Vorax Collective but had also seeded discord among allies. Their long game was to keep every advanced civilization isolated and dependent, ensuring that no single species could ever challenge their authority. The evidence was irrefutable: secret experiments, covert alliances with unscrupulous factions, and even the orchestration of historical crises that had pitted friend against friend. Vex's grizzled face hardened as he reviewed the grim details. They engineered every crisis, every conflict, he murmured, voice laced with both fury and sorrow. Our peoples were kept apart deliberately. Lieutenant Meris, whose eyes shone with determined resolve, added softly, our ancestors' sacrifices were exploited to keep us divided. But now, with the truth in our hands, there is power in our unity. Across the facility, human technicians worked feverishly to decrypt more Council archives. Among them emerged a series of encrypted messages coded in a language that predated the current galactic orders, a language that bridged not only cultures but epochs. For Captain Alina Ray and her intelligence team on the Legis Horizon, these new leads signified that the Council's corruption was as deep as it was wide. In the vast databanks of the Nexus, hidden behind layers of quantum encryption and interstellar firewalls, lay the seeds of rebellion. With every file downloaded and every secret code unraveled, a new strategy began to form, one that would unite not only Kilari and human forces but also those oppressed by the Council for millennia. A clarion call to every free people in the galaxy was emerging from those long-buried records, promising that their chains could finally be broken. As the revelations of the Nexus spread through the Allied networks, a palpable sense of urgency swept over the forces defending Kilari Prime. The Galactic Council, realizing that their carefully constructed facade was in imminent danger of collapse, had accelerated their counter-offensive. Minister Callis and his lieutenants now marshaled their concealed fleets for a final, decisive strike aimed at crippling the rebellion at its source. In orbit above Kilari Prime, the sky darkened with the arrival of Council reinforcements, massive battle cruisers emerging from hyperspace like specters of tyranny. Their emergence was heralded by ominous energy discharges and a silence that spoke of ruthless intent. Captain Ray's voice broke the tension aboard the Legis Horizon. "Everyone, brace for impact. We expected their counterstrike, but they have arrived in force. Form up and hold the defensive perimeter." The human fleet immediately responded with disciplined coordination. Advanced shielding arrays were activated in tandem with the kinetic defense systems of the Kilari craft. Every vessel, every fighter, and every turret was pressed into service as the Council's armada began its calculated descent toward the liberated sectors. On the surface of Kilari Prime, Commander Vex and his ground forces, now bolstered by human engineers and special forces operatives, scrambled to fortify every possible defensive point. In the makeshift command center carved into the ruined granite of an ancient Kilari temple, tactical maps lit up with a display of enemy vectors converging on critical communication hubs. "Conserve energy for the central relay," Vex ordered, his voice resolute despite the cacophony of battle around him. "Our final stand begins now. Every life saved, every truth broadcast, this is the moment we decide our future." In the ensuing hours, the battlefield transformed into a multi-front war zone. Human fighters and Kilari starships coalesced into a single, united force that repelled wave after wave of Council reinforcements. The coordinated use of quantum disruptors, reflective armor, and ancient Kilari defensive enchantments created barriers that resisted even the Council's superior numbers. Amid this conflagration of light and darkness, Lieutenant Meris led a squadron tasked with escorting a critical data courier, a small but heavily fortified shuttle carrying the complete archive of Council secrets, from the Nexus back to the Allied flagship. Their journey was fraught with peril. Navigating through fields of space debris and dodging the relentless barrages of enemy fire, every second in transit was a test of their courage and skill. Meris's squadron encountered an enemy blockade near a narrow canyon of asteroids, a natural choke point rigged by the Council with automated defenses. With precise, almost choreographed maneuvers, the Allied fighters unleashed salvo after salvo of micro-missiles tuned to disrupt sensor arrays. In the brilliant flash of explosions against the void, the path slowly cleared as the Council's craft began to falter, unable to maintain their formation in the turbulent region. Finally, with the shuttle secured and the data intact, the courier reached the Legis Horizon, where Captain Ray immediately initiated a galaxy-wide transmission. The broadcast, now interwoven with every incriminating file and damning record of the Council's deception, illuminated every screen in every Allied colony and independent star system. The truth was out, irrevocable and blinding, a call to arms against the tyranny that had plagued the galaxy for too long. The revelation of the Council's malevolent designs galvanized the disparate factions across the galaxy. In distant systems, spark after spark of rebellion ignited into vast conflagrations of insurrection. Former enemies found common cause with the Kilari and human alliance, and even parts of the Council's own ranks, those who had harbored doubts in the shadows, began defecting in droves. Back in the heart of the conflict near Kilari Prime, the Allied forces now faced their most massive and organized counterattack. The Council had deployed what they called the Titan Fleet, monolithic warships that dwarfed even the largest human carriers, each one bristling with state-of-the-art dreadnought arrays and weapons that had been suppressed from public knowledge for generations. The approach of these titanic vessels was heralded by seismic tremors felt even on the surface of Kilari Prime. Giant energy arcs illuminated the darkness as the enemy's flagship, a colossal vessel known as the Oblivion, led the vanguard. Its surface was a writhing mass of energy conduits and armored plating, reflecting both ancient power and modern cruelty. Captain Ray, stationed on the bridge of the Legis Horizon, knew that the coming confrontation was not just a battle, it was the ultimate showdown for the soul of the galaxy. "All hands, prepare to engage the Titan fleet," she commanded. "This is our moment of reckoning. Our combined might is the proof that unity can overcome even the greatest of adversaries." In a display of human ingenuity and Kilari martial finesse, the Allied fleets executed a daring pincer maneuver. Swarms of agile fighters, supported by heavy assault frigates and enhanced by advanced quantum weaponry, converged on the flanks of the Titan fleet while a core formation diverted the enemy's direct fire. The battle raged with a ferocity that blurred the line between art and war, a dance of tactical brilliance and raw, unyielding determination. For every enemy Titan brought down, the Allied forces suffered heavy losses. But the momentum had swung irreversibly. Amid clouds of ionized particles and plumes of energy debris, human commandos boarded a disabled section of the Oblivion, breaching its armored hull in a heart-stopping close-quarters encounter. In the labyrinthine corridors within, they encountered Council officers desperate to salvage the shattered remnants of their authority. The clash was brutal and unrelenting, a microcosm of the larger battle waged in the void of space. In another sector, Commander Vex led a ground assault against a heavily fortified communications outpost that the Council used to coordinate the Titan fleet's operations. Fighting in the ruins of what was once an ancient Kilari Plaza, Vex forces confronted not only advanced enemy soldiers, but also an onslaught of automated defenses that fought with the relentless precision of cold algorithms. As laser fire scorched the ancient stone and plasma arcs illuminated the twilight sky, Vex rallied his troops. "We fight for every lost soul, for every forgotten promise. Today, we secure our destiny." The battle was arduous and prolonged, each minute marked by staggering sacrifices and heroic defiance. Human technical specialists and Kilari mystics worked side by side to recalibrate defensive systems, while relay stations transmitted the resounding message of liberation across the galaxies. The Titan fleet, designed to be an unstoppable force, began to buckle under the relentless pressure of a people united by truth and hope. With the fall of one Titan after another, the Council's grip began to falter. The tide of battle, once a maelstrom of despair, transformed into a beacon of revolutionary fervor. The galactic broadcast of the Council's crimes had not only exposed their treachery but had inspired countless beings to take up arms in defiance. City after city, moon after moon, in systems once resigned to tyranny, rebellions erupted in joyous and violent uprising. In the midst of these widespread revolts, new alliances were forged. Civilian militias, previously scattered and disorganized, coalesced into structured fighting units. Leaders emerged from the shadows, veterans, and even young idealists, ready to challenge the established order. In remote research stations and mining outposts, engineers and scientists hurried to replicate the advanced technologies salvaged from the Titan fleet, turning the Council's own weapons into tools of liberation. On Kilari Prime itself, the unified command under Vex and Ray became the nucleus of a vast network of resistance. The combined forces organized rapid response units that moved like living shadows through the enemy's communication lines. They disrupted Council transmissions, sabotaged forward bases, and freed prisoners from labor camps set up by the oppressive regime. Every action was a testament to the power of solidarity. In a symbolic moment that would be remembered for generations, a joint Kilari human liberation rally was broadcast live from the central square of the newly reclaimed capital city of Kilari Prime. As multicolored banners fluttered against the backdrop of twin suns and a sky streaked with both scars and promise, Commander Vex stepped forward to address a gathering that spanned planets. His voice echoed over every frequency. Today, we stand not as two disparate peoples, but as a single force, one that has risen from the ashes of oppression to reclaim its destiny. The Galactic Council's reign of terror ends now. Let this day mark the birth of a new era, built on justice, truth, and the eternal bonds of unity. Captain Ray's broadcast from the Legis horizon resonated with a parallel sentiment: humanity's greatest strength is not in isolation, but in the power of cooperation. Our ancestors helped kindle the spark of freedom. Now, we are the flame that will light every corner of the galaxy. Together, we are unstoppable. As the rally reached its crescendo, cheers erupted across countless systems. The digital age of repression was over, replaced by the renaissance of emancipated voices. The rebellion was not merely a military campaign, it was a cultural and intellectual revolution that shattered the ancient hierarchies and restored faith in a future where every species had a place at the cosmic table. The climax of the battle unfolded in the silent void of space as the last remnants of the Council's flagship fleet withdrew into the nebula. The Oblivion itself, its once imposing silhouette now a shattered husk adrift among the stars, signified the collapse of a regime built on manipulation and despair. In its final moments, as automated systems failed one by one and the vessel's core powered down in a dwindling pulse of unspent energy, a message was transmitted, a final, halting declaration of surrender from within the Council's inner sanctum. For the Allied forces, this capitulation was bittersweet. Countless lives had been lost in pursuit of justice, and the scars of war would linger for generations. Yet, in that moment, every soul across the galaxy felt the profound thrill of liberation. The enemy had been vanquished, and the ruthless network of control that had kept civilizations in thrall had been irrevocably dismantled. In the weeks that followed, as peace talks replaced battle orders and provisional governments arose in liberated territories, the true work of rebuilding began. On Kilari Prime, human engineers worked alongside Kilari architects to restore damaged infrastructure, melding ancient design with futuristic innovation. In the capital city, a grand assembly was convened, comprised of representatives from every once oppressed system, to draft a new charter of interstellar rights and responsibilities. Commander Vex and Captain Ray sat side by side during the first session of what would become known as the Galactic Accords. Their eyes, reflecting the light of distant stars and the promise of renewal, spoke of battles fought and futures reclaimed. In a joint address that was broadcast throughout the new Federation of Liberated Worlds, they declared, "Let this new dawn be a testament to the enduring spirit of those who refuse to be shackled by tyranny. Together, we have proven that truth, unity, and resilience can overcome even the darkest forces. From this day forward, every voice shall be heard, every culture celebrated, and every injustice challenged. Our galaxy is reborn." The celebrations, both somber and jubilant, continued well into the night. Across the liberated systems, memorials were built for the fallen, and cultural festivals emerged that honored the diverse traditions of the galaxy's peoples. The rebellions and revolutions of the past, once sources of strife and sorrow, were now revered as the stepping stones toward a just society. In the final days of the immediate conflict, whispers of rebuilding carried on gentle breezes in space. Former council officers, disillusioned by the magnitude of their defeat, began to join the process of reconciliation. Communities once divided began to integrate, exchanging knowledge and traditions that had been kept apart by decades of engineered segregation. The spark of human solidarity, kindled long ago in the face of isolation, now shone as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even the most deeply entrenched systems could be transformed through courage and mutual support. Years later, as the scars of conflict faded into the annals of history, Kilari Prime became a symbol of what could be achieved when disparate peoples united in the name of freedom. Schools taught the legacy of Commander Vex Vaylor and Captain Ray's unwavering determination. Statues and murals chronicled the long battle against oppression, celebrating not only victories on the battlefield but the triumph of an idea, a belief that every sentient being had the right to determine its destiny. In the heart of the newly established Galactic Council, a reformed body built on the values of transparency, cooperation, and accountability, the lessons of the past were enshrined in the Galactic Accords. Modern technologies, once tools of manipulation, were repurposed to maintain open communication and nurture innovation. As representatives from every star system gathered regularly to share ideas and mediate disputes, the old barriers faded, replaced by bonds forged in the crucible of shared sacrifice. Human and Kilari scientists collaborated on projects that spanned the cosmos, from harnessing the raw energies of interstellar rifts to reviving ecosystems devastated by years of conflict. Cultural exchanges enriched entire societies, festivals celebrated the blending of traditions, and art captured the timeless narrative of a galaxy reborn. In a quiet corner of Kilari Prime's restored capital, a memorial garden was planted, a living testament to the unity that had saved a world and, in turn, transformed the galaxy. Each tree, each flowering plant, and each graceful archway reminded future generations of the courage and resilience it took to overcome tyranny. Visitors from every corner of the galaxy strolled through the serene pathways, reflecting on the sacrifices that had allowed so many to dream of a better tomorrow. As twilight descended over this new era of understanding, an elderly Kilari storyteller sat before a gathering of children and young adults. With a gentle, measured voice, the elder recounted the epic journey, from the desperate pleas of Commander Sal Vex to the fearless charge of Captain Alina Ray, and the unstoppable rise of a rebellion that defied the dictates of a corrupt regime. The tale was told not only as a chronicle of war but as an eternal reminder that when hearts join as one, even the darkest night can give way to a radiant dawn. And so, under the watchful gaze of distant stars and the promise of infinite possibilities, the galaxy moved forward. The legacy of unity, etched into the very fabric of interstellar society, became the guiding principle for all who dared to dream, fight, and ultimately create a future where freedom and justice would forever prevail.